You've probably done it. Taken the test, gotten your letters, and felt a small jolt of being seen. Finally, a word for who you are. And then quietly, the label became a box. I'm an introvert, so I can't. That's just my type. A description of you turned into a limit on you. Here's what almost no one who takes those tests realizes. The whole idea of personality types began with Carl Jung, and what he actually meant was nearly the opposite of a fixed box. He wasn't trying to sort you into a category and leave you there. Jung's personality types were never meant to tell you who you are and stop. They were meant to show you what you've overdeveloped, what you've neglected, and where your growth is waiting. The type isn't the destination, it's the map. By the end of this, you'll understand what Jung actually discovered about personality, why the popular version gets it backwards, and how to use your type not as a cage, but as a key. Stay with me. Let's go back to the source, because Jung gave us two of the most famous words in all of psychology, and most people use them wrong. Jung coined the terms introversion and extroversion, but he did not mean shy versus outgoing. He meant something deeper, the fundamental direction your energy flows. The extrovert is oriented outward toward people, action, the external world, which is where they draw their life. The introvert is oriented inward, toward the inner world of thought, reflection, and meaning, which is where they refuel. Think of Noah, called shy his whole life, when the truth was simpler and less apologetic. His energy pointed inward. Crowds didn't frighten him, they drained him, and solitude filled him back up. That's not a flaw to fix. It's an orientation to understand. This was Jung's first great insight, that people are built facing different directions, and that neither direction is better. They are simply two different ways of being alive. Why this matters? Half of self-knowledge is knowing which way you're actually facing, underneath what you were told about yourself. But attitude was only the beginning. Jung went deeper and mapped the actual machinery of how a mind works through what he called the four functions. He saw that we take in reality in two opposite ways. Through sensation, the function of facts, details, the concrete, what is actually physically here. Or through intuition, the function of patterns, possibilities, meanings, where things might be going. One person walks into a room and registers the details. Another registers the atmosphere and the potential. Picture four people at the same dinner. The sensation type remembers what was served, who sat where, the exact words spoken. The intuitive barely recalls the food, but leaves with a vivid read of the undercurrents. Who's drifting apart? What's about to change? Deciding later what it all meant, the thinker analyzes the logic of it. The feeler weighs whether people were treated well. Same evening. Four different realities, because four different functions were doing the work. And once we've taken the world in, Jung saw two opposite ways we make judgments about it. Through thinking, deciding by logic, analysis, what is true, or through feeling. And by feeling, Jung didn't mean emotion, but evaluation, deciding by values, by what matters, by what is worthwhile. So there it is, the real engine beneath the letters. Two ways of perceiving, sensation and intuition, two ways of judging, thinking, and feeling. Everyone has all four, but, and this is the key, we do not use them equally. Why this matters? Your type is really just the particular way these four functions are ranked inside you. And here is the insight that the popular personality tests almost completely lose. And it's the most useful part of all. Jung observed that in each of us, one function becomes dominant, the strongest, most developed, most trusted. It's your natural gift, the tool you reach for automatically. It develops early and strengthens with use. You trust it, so you lean on it, so it grows, while its opposite is quietly left behind, underused and underdeveloped. But its opposite becomes what he called the inferior function, the weakest, least conscious, most primitive part of you. Think of Ela, whose thinking was razor sharp, logical, precise, formidable in any argument. But her feeling function, her opposite, was undeveloped and touchy. In the world of values and emotions, this brilliant woman was strangely clumsy, easily overwhelmed, almost childlike. And it was exactly there, in her weakest function, that her life kept quietly breaking down. This is Jung's crucial point. Your dominant function is your gift, but your inferior function is your blind spot, your recurring trouble, and, as we'll see, the very doorway to your growth. The pop version hands you your dominant letters and calls it your identity. Jung was far more interested in the function you're worst at. If this is already showing you something about yourself, take a second to subscribe. There's a new piece of the inner life here each week. Now, why the box is a lie. Because here is where the popular version goes most wrong, and where it can actually do harm. It takes Jung's fluid, living map and freezes it into 16 tidy cages. I'm an introvert, so I don't do that. I'm a thinker, so I'm just not emotional. The type stops being a description and becomes an excuse, a wall you build against your own development. And that is the exact opposite of what Jung intended. Jung was clear that these are tendencies, not prisons. He said plainly that there is no such thing as a pure extrovert or a pure introvert, that such a person would barely be able to function. We are all mixtures, all capable of every function. You know this from your own life. The die-hard introvert who comes alive leading something they love. The pure logician cracked open and deepened by grief. The moments you act completely out of type aren't glitches. They're proof the whole psyche is in there, and that the label only ever captured your loudest habit, never your full range. Your type describes your habits, your defaults, the shape of your one-sidedness, not the limit of who you can become. It's worth knowing, too, that the famous four-letter system most people take today is a later popularization, built by others on top of Jung's ideas long after him. It can be a fun and useful doorway, but mistaken for the whole truth, it does something Jung would have hated. It takes a tool meant to reveal your potential for growth and turns it into a label that quietly forbids it. Why this matters now. A type held as a box keeps you exactly where you are. Jung meant it to show you where to go. The test itself isn't the enemy. A label can be a real gift. The first time someone grasps that their exhaustion in crowds is an orientation, not a defect. Something in them finally exhales. The danger is only in where you stop, held as an ending. This is what I am, case closed. The type quietly shrinks you, held as a beginning. Here's where I've been strong, and here's what I've left undeveloped. The very same four letters become an invitation, same map, opposite destinations. So what did Jung actually want you to do with all this? Not to find your type and stop, to find your type and then grow past its limits. The whole point for Jung was individuation, becoming a complete, balanced person instead of a brilliant, lopsided one. And the path runs directly through your inferior function, the weak, neglected side you'd rather avoid. The sharp thinker learns, slowly and humbly, to honor feeling and value. The dreamy intuitive learns to touch the concrete, practical world of sensation. The one who lives outward learns the richness of the inner life. The one who lives inward learns to meet the outer world. Jung noticed something striking about timing, too. The inferior function often begins to stir on its own in the second half of life. The hard-driving achiever suddenly craves feeling and meaning. The dreamer suddenly wants to build something real. What looks like a midlife crisis is frequently just this: the neglected function, ignored for decades, finally demanding to be lived. Age itself pushes us toward wholeness if we let it. For Ela, wholeness didn't mean becoming less of a thinker. It meant finally developing the feeling function she'd spent her life avoiding. Awkwardly at first, then more truly, until she was no longer at the mercy of the one part of herself she'd never grown. And there's something almost mystical in Jung's view here. The inferior function, precisely because it's the least developed and least conscious, sits closest to the unconscious, which means it's also where the richest, least tapped parts of you are hidden. Growing it isn't only self-improvement, it's how the buried half of your nature finally gets to live. The thinker who develops feeling doesn't just get nicer, they gain access to a whole dimension of meaning they were cut off from. The gift is always guarded by the thing you're worst at. This is the gift hidden inside Jung's typology. Your type shows you your strength, yes, but more importantly, it points with almost embarrassing precision at exactly the part of yourself you most need to develop to become whole. The label was never the answer. It was the map to the work. And notice what happens to people who actually do this. They get harder to sum up in a word. The category that fit them so neatly at 25 sits loosely at 50, because they've grown into the very parts they used to lack. That's the real mark of someone moving toward wholeness. Not a sharper type, but a fuller one, a person the boxes can no longer quite contain. Jung pictured the fully developed psyche as a wholeness with all four functions within reach, not equal, but available, so you can meet life with the right tool instead of always the same one. We spend the first half of life mastering one or two. The second half is the slow recovery of the rest. So how do you actually use this wisely? A few honest steps. First, know your dominant function, your genuine gift, and honor it without over-relying on it. It's what you're for, but it's not all you are. Then, and more importantly, find your inferior function. Look for where you're consistently clumsy, defensive, easily overwhelmed, the domain where a capable adult suddenly feels about 6 years old. That embarrassing place is not a flaw to hide. It's the exact coordinate of your growth. Then, gently, begin to develop it. If feeling is your weak side, practice naming and honoring what you value, not just what you can prove. If thinking is weak, practice slowing down and examining your logic. If you live in your head, do one concrete, physical, real-world thing. Small, deliberate, repeated. And expect it to feel bad at first, genuinely awkward, even faintly humiliating. Working your inferior function is like writing with your non-dominant hand. Clumsy, slow, a little ridiculous. That discomfort isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's the exact feeling of a neglected part of you waking up. Most people quit right here, retreat to their strength, and call it just being myself. The growth lives on the other side of that awkwardness, and you're not trying to erase your gift or become average at everything. You keep your dominant strength. You just stop being secretly run by it and stop being ambushed by the parts you never grew. And finally, hold your type loosely. Use it as a compass that shows you the terrain, never as a cage that fences you in. One last clue worth using. Notice who you envy or quietly judge as too much. The over-emotional person you find exhausting, the coldly logical one you resent. Often they are simply strong exactly where you are weak, openly living the function you disowned. Your irritation is a quiet map to your own missing side. You are not 4 letters. You are a whole psyche, most of which you haven't met yet. Here's the question to sit with tonight. Forget your dominant type for a moment. Where in your life do you feel strangely clumsy, defensive, or younger than your age? Because that weak spot, Jung would say, is not your limit. It's the doorway to the half of yourself still waiting to be developed. Tell me in the comments, what's the function you've spent your life avoiding? I read every reply. And if this gave you a way to use your type as a key instead of a cage, subscribe and stay close. We're learning to become whole together, one honest piece at a time. Because you were never meant to just be your type. You were meant to grow into everything it left out, the whole person hiding behind the 4 convenient letters.